the reality is technology keeps changing what we provide. And what we should do is be proactive and looking at what's out there and creating new services, because that's the way we continue to be proactive. If we create customer value and have great systems, but the services that we're providing are no longer forward thinking, or now they're obsolete or they're not up to date, then you're not completely being proactive. So for me, a proactive bookkeeping business model needs all three of these to be working effectively. They're good individually, don't get me wrong, but to be a true proactive professional firm, you have to have all three of them.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be a great one. Our guest is the CEO of the Institute of Certified Bookkeepers USA, or ICB USA for short, which is a different kind of association that is forward-thinking through its development of certifications, education, resources, and tools for its members so that they can be the bookkeepers of the future. Today, he will tell us about an exciting new initiative that will be a game changer for many of its members, and I'm sure you, the listener. It's called the Proactive Bookkeeping Business Model, and we're looking forward to hearing more about it. Louie Prosperi, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you very much, Michael. I'm very happy to be here, and I really enjoy your podcast. I've listened to it many times, and it's a really good podcast for professional bookkeepers around the world. So,
thank you, Louie. I appreciate it. Here. I appreciate it, and you're not a first-time guest. You've been on the show before, so I'm sure some listeners would have heard from you and learned about you. And so, before we get into this conversation about the proactive bookkeeping business model, just share a little bit about yourself and the ICB, and we'll go from there.
Well, a little bit about myself is that I've been in proactive and pun on words there, person with regards to getting bookkeepers recognized and being recognized as the professionals they are through the associations that I've been involved with. One of the key focuses for us is certification and making sure they're recognized at that level. Now, with regards to ICB USA, our tagline is Bookkeepers of the Future. What does that represent? Well, basically, what ICB USA is trying to do or is doing this in three different levels. One is the certification level. What I mean by that is our professional exam is constantly revised and updated so that every 2 years, we make sure that when people take the program, it's not obsolete. So the individuals that are coming through our certification process are ready and able to meet the requirements of the customers that they're going to see today and tomorrow. It also allows our professional members that have already written the exam to make sure that their certification still has value by making sure that it's always forward thinking. The other component is we've redesigned our levels to be more comprehensive and to reflect the current technology challenges. For example, our entry level, which is the certified bookkeeping technician, is designed to acknowledge that people who take software, who have been certified in software programs, are basically recognized at a technician level because they can process and enter information. Our next level is where you've had education, training, and so forth through a program of some sort. And our professional level recognizes what a lot of our professionals have learned through, which is through experience. A lot of our professionals have learned their knowledge through hands-on, and that's what we've done with our professional levels. So that's that component. The next component is to develop programs like the proactive bookkeeping business model, so that our members are able to get the tools and resources and be ready for what's to come. And the third is our communication or community component, which is to develop communities through Facebook and other things that we're going to be developing, meetup groups that's going to be happening in the future, so that our bookkeepers can collaborate. The great thing that we have that's very unique is we also have a global perspective, because ICB is globally renowned. We have associations around the world. So our bookkeepers not only get the advantage of what we do in the US, but also what's happening worldwide.
Absolutely. And ICB is the world's largest association for bookkeepers, is it not?
Yes, it is. We have over 150,000 members in about 110 countries, and we have, I think, right now 12 associations in 12 different countries, like 12 separate associations.
Excellent. I really love the tagline, Bookkeepers of the Future. What does that represent?
That basically represents where we are today, Michael. The reality is that our bookkeepers can no longer provide services that are backwards viewing or backwards thinking. The professional now is always forward thinking. So what we as an association is, we have to be the association for bookkeepers of the future. We have to be for those bookkeepers that need the tools and resources. A great example is Ingrid Edstrom and ICB USA have been working on the redefinition of what a professional bookkeeper is. We've looked at, Ingrid's taking the lead on this, and we're supporting her 100%. She's looking at seeing if the Webster Dictionary can be updated, because the definition of a professional bookkeeper is no longer valid. It's based on back in the old days where, you had an abacus and you had paper entry components, which no longer exist. So what we're doing is making sure that as an association, we keep the terminology and what a bookkeeper is and does forward thinking.
Beautiful. Well, I love that. I love that there's associations like yours that are working to make the profession more relevant to small business owners. I mean, it really is such an important role to play to make sure that small business owners know that there are great people out there that can help them be empowered around their finances and can build stronger, more fast-growing businesses. So anybody that is, and I know I've said this before on the podcast, but anybody that's a friend of small business is a friend of ours. And you're a big friend, Louie, because you're doing that in so many ways and have been for so long. Well, I love that. Bookkeepers of the future, and we're all working to help bookkeepers, grow their business, and as well help them grow their business so they can help so many more businesses grow. It's such a fun thing to be working on, right? Every day is that we're changing the world by helping small business solve the world's problems. And I just love thinking about that every day. But let's get into this proactive model. Love the word proactive. I mean, it's about thinking right now about tomorrow and the future in order to be prepared for whatever is to come. But let's hear your perspective. Tell us a little bit more about what it is.
Well, thanks for giving me this opportunity to speak about it. One of the things that's interesting about the reason why we called it proactive is because a lot of business models are reactive. We're always reacting and we're always behind. Technology and how it's impacting, you indicated very, very, very correctly, the small business community, and we are the servicers and providers of their financial aspects, core aspects of their business. They have to think proactive. They have to look future-oriented, and their professionals have to too. So what a proactive model basically goes under, we're basically looking at what I call the three pillars of this model. The first pillar is called creating customer value. And customer value, if you really think about it, a lot of customers don't really look, the history, it's important historical up to a certain point, but their real value is what can we do going forward. So when they look for services, they're looking for forward-thinking services. So when we create customer value, we're automatically looking at it in a proactive method. The next component, which is very key, because sometimes a lot of professionals, bookkeepers and accountants as well, have a really good way of talking and creating value at the front end. But then what you need is to deliver. So, and this is something that we've talked about, Michael, with regards to pure bookkeeping, which is having processes and systems in place to meet those customer expectations. And if you don't have those systems in place, it doesn't matter what you create at the front end. If you don't deliver at the end, it just doesn't work. So that's a critical component. And the third pillar, which is actually the new component that I think that businesses, bookkeepers have to continuously look at, is looking at the actual services they provide and making sure they're creating and developing new services. The reality is technology keeps changing what we provide. And what we should do is be proactive and looking at what's out there and creating new services, because that's the way we continue to be proactive. If we create customer value and have great systems, but the services that we're providing are no longer forward-thinking, or now they're obsolete, or they're not up to date, then you're not completely being proactive. So for me, a proactive bookkeeping business model needs all three of these to be working effectively. They're good individually, don't get me wrong. You need to, but to be a true proactive professional firm, you have to have all three of them.
It's a lot, at first glance, we anybody could look at a small business and think, oh, you're just there doing the job that you do. It's you do the technical aspects of a job. But when we step back and we look at something like this, there's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
How you approach your business and the different components. And what I love, you've actually created a hub and spoke visualization of what brings this model to life. Can you speak a little bit about the hub and spoke? Talk about hub and spoke and why it's so important.
Wow. So I guess you were listening to that last presentation I made. That's cool. Okay. So I call it a bookkeeper's business model. I've basically framed it into a wheel. So it's kind of hard to do this without visuals, but I'll try to do the hub, which is the center part of your focus, usually is an individual or a system. And then the spokes are the domains, which is marketing, human resources, admin, management, leadership, production. Those are your spokes. And the wheel component is actually your business. So if your hub is not strong or effective, what happens to your business? You get a warped wheel, or it collapses on itself, or if the spokes aren't attached to the wheel properly. So that's something that is very important. And you need a strong hub. And this is one of the pillars that we talked about. And for me, the hub has to be systems and processes. If you have it individually based, meaning that if it's key man, and if that's what you have, whether it's the owner or 2 or 3 key employees, what happens if there's a change? They literally take the hub with them when they leave, and you have a weakened core, which can have a huge impact on the success of your business. So what you want to make sure is you have a very solid hub, and that should be your systems and processes.
Completely agree, and this is one of the areas that I absolutely love, have applied, and have thought about for most of my life, is how to make things run more smoothly, how to have things run better. Because every time you do that, that hub really is a core investment piece. It takes a lot of time to build system. It takes a lot of time to improve processes. But when you do, it is an annuity. It's something that you're building. It's a big investment that if done correctly, that investment will continue on into the future.
Actually, Michael, what you said was actually very important. The core about the hub is that it actually brings value. It's not like a sunk cost. It actually, like if you ever, and I know Debbie Roberts has talked about this, which is the founder of Pure Bookkeeping Systems. when you've created a very strong hub of systems and processes, it actually increases the value of your organization, which becomes a actual asset. So with a service business, it's probably one of the most critical components to add value. So it's not a waste of time, even if you're a one-person show or organization, to spend time creating. And I'm a victim of it too. When I had my own practice, I was on my own. All my processes and systems were technically in my head, but it makes a big difference. Sorry for interrupting, Michael.
No, it really is what I think it's perfect. And it was, just to speak to that, it was all in your head. And when we all suffer that. Every single person listening right now, there are components, even in an incredibly well-run, system-driven business, there are still things that remain in the head. But the moment they do get out of the head, they get documented somewhere, whether it's basic or sophisticated documentation, it's now there and it can be improved.
Yeah.
And that's the exciting part, is that it's like, wow, we improved by 0.00001% today, yet that can be improved upon. And so I constantly have to step back and go, don't overwhelm yourself wherever, and this is for the listener, don't overwhelm yourself where you have zero systems or you have lots of systems. The point is to think system. Like Louie is saying, and I love this, why I love the visual, is that is the core. It's systems and process. If you can just start and improve and build better systems, from whatever stage that you're at, it will be an investment that will create an asset in your business and a continually improving asset. So it's why, I get excited about this. I don't think too many people do, but you and I will, and I know there's a lot of listeners that get excited about systems and process.
Well, to be quite honest, I'm not that excited about it, but it's amazing. Once you have it in place, as a sole practitioner you don't know how you would have lived without it. It's that important. But technically, it is a process. It is a grind to write this stuff out and to put it on paper, but the efforts will be there. I just want to mention one thing with regards to the proactive model compared to a more traditional model. The proactive model is customer-centric. And what I mean by that is that all three pillars are based on customers' expectations. It's all about creating customer value, meeting customer expectations, and creating services that meet their wants and needs. So you're always going outwards to find the answer, because customer-centric means that it's external from your system. The customer is not an internal component. The traditional system model that a lot of professionals have is what we call, I might get some flack on this, but that's okay. There's going to be a lot of cost accountants out there. The cost accounting approach, or cost plus model, which bases everything on internal input costs. So when we create a service, we base it on how much time it's put in and how much energy, what the hourly rates are, and so forth. But the reality, none of that is creating any value. So when we look at the services and we look at how well we're delivering our services, right, which is we created internally, if we don't look at what the results are with the customer, meaning what's the customer's feedback, rather than we delivered on this service and we hit the deadline and all that, that doesn't mean anything when you just focus on the service, which I think is still internal. So the proactive bookkeeping model, business model, one of the core components is customer-centric. It's an external-looking model. It doesn't focus on the internals.
Beautiful. I think it at the end of the day, our customers are what keep our businesses alive in any industry. And so it's the right direction, and it's a direction that takes more time. It takes more investigation. But again, it's like that asset you were talking about. When you do it that way, the long-term effect is incredible wealth creation inside of your business, because you're delivering a higher level of value. So I completely love it. Louie, what, in your opinion, what systems and processes are important in this customer-centric model?
Well, for one of the key components is you have to have a system and process to create customer value. I am a proponent of Ron Baker's methods. I read his books. He's a great friend of mine, and the VeraSage Institute is a great resource for anyone. That system of creating value based on the customer conversation and providing options and looking at what each individual customer is looking for, because there is no commodity-based system when you're providing bookkeeping services to a small business owner. Because even though bookkeepers and accountants know this, each business is, even though it might be in the same industry, the people are different. That owner is different. The structure is different. His market base is different. So you can never just cookie cut and say this is good for everyone. So what you have to do is you have to have a system in place to make sure you are actually creating customer value correctly and properly. The second component, the second set of systems, I'm not going to go into each individual, but I'm just giving you the groups for now. The second set of systems, which are really important, and this is part of your hub. All of these systems are part of your hub, but this one here is meeting those expectations. So I call this your quality control level, or final product component. So once you've developed the customer values, now you have to literally produce the end result and make sure it comes exactly as the scope was developed. And if there's changes, that you do the changes and everything's documented and properly. So that's the second series of systems. The third system is basically what you do to run your business, like, administrative systems, HR systems. And the one that I think every organization should have is a system to review your services and making sure that you're always up to date. It could be a technology/service system process, but those are probably the three components that I can think of, that if you have systems in place for all three of these, I think you're doing quite well.
Yeah. Speaking of looking at your technology and your systems, let's talk a little bit about technology and how technology has impacted the profession.
Well, if you haven't realized, if you're a professional bookkeeper and accountant that hasn't realized that technology has impacted your business, you're probably still using pen and paper, because technically, if you're on a computer and if you're using software to help your customers, technology is going to impact you greatly. We know that the cloud now, the cloud-based technology, well, that's now already becoming it's not even future-oriented right now. It's not even current. It's actually past, right? It's something that's already pre-built into our DNA, right? Almost everybody's providing some sort of cloud service technology or cloud service functionings, and that's, to me, is already in the back mirror, or in the back seat at least. What's going on now is providing services that are future oriented. So you're providing result based services, and the thing that I think that just a couple of years ago when I was talking about this, I said, the next step would be bookkeeping and accounting app-based technology is going to take over, right? That was 2 years ago I said that. And right now, if you know all of the different apps that attach to not only just your software, but to your customers' components, and how AI is having a significant impact on how things are being done today. It's what I find you need to have this proactive model is because the technology actually helps you, because it allows you to look at what are the new services that a professional bookkeeper needs to do now, right? And the technology will give you the answers to that. And those services will be there. And as long as you're not looking only on historical related technology or services, you're going to have a very, very fruitful future. I wouldn't be afraid of AI right now, because it actually allows me to do a lot of analysis with the information and provide even more information to the to the small business owner. And as they're getting more complex in their business, they need more information, concise information related to their specific needs.
Yeah, I completely agree. And come back to the customer centric is to continue to go back and really the point is to help business owners grow their business. And so as things change, technology changes, it's changing for them as well. The world is changing. So but it's not changing. People aren't there saying, hey, how can we make the world worse? How can we make things run more slowly? Right?
Yeah,
Everybody,
right.
Now, some of it does not work, or it does make the world worse. We could have those conversations. But the intent is to improve, to bring efficiencies. I mean, that's been going on since the beginning of time, is how do we wake up today and do things better than we did them yesterday? So that's happening today. We would be able to say that it's moving faster. We're able to move way further in a given day today because of technology that we built yesterday that's helping us make today even more improved. So I think it's important for everybody to stop and go, okay, yes, this is change. Humans don't like change typically, but I can either decide to embrace the change and say, look, I'd rather have comfort. Wouldn't we all, right?
Yes.
But embrace that this change is meant to improve. It's meant to improve it for you, the listener. It's meant to improve it for your clients. And so I think, Louie, we would both agree that this type of conversation needs to be part of if not a weekly, at least monthly, where you sit back and have a cup of tea and go, okay, what's happening? Where do I need to be putting my attention? What change is going on? What change is happening that can help me? And leverage it and dip the toe in the pool. It's never going to be like tomorrow we wake up and we've figured everything out. But I hear so many of our listeners when I'm having conversations with them say, oh, it's hard to keep up with everything. And, it's changed and all these things are changing and I'm not sure which way to go. But then I might talk to them months later and they're like, yeah, I checked that out and wow, it's really cool. And it's helping my business and it's improving. It's helping me do these sorts of things. So any change or anything new, there's a barrier. It's a barrier to take that leap into it. So I think it's an invitation for people to say, the listener, hey, spend a bit of time, embrace this stuff. Well,
since we're talking about our professional bookkeepers out there, the one of the key factors that this component that we just talked about, and a lot of this is working on your business, not working in your business. I know you've heard that a lot of times.
Oh, yeah.
So the interesting thing about working on your business, one of the things that you should always look at is your capacity, because a rule of thumb, if you're at 100, 110% of capacity, you'll never be able to work on your business and you'll never be able to develop a proactive model, because your capacity, you should be at 70 to 75% of capacity, which I mean is the amount of work that can go through the system. You need that extra capacity to deal with emergencies that come up with particularly key customers that need something right away. If you don't have that component, it might hurt your customer base, particularly the ones that needs quick and reliable stuff. And you need that capacity. The second component is basically what we're talking about. You have to have that capacity so you can take a breather and focus on what you need to do with your systems and with the technology and all of the stuff we talked about today. If you don't have that capacity, you'll never work on your business, and then you'll end up 2 years, 3 years later, you'll be adopting things because you have no choice, because everybody's pushing you along. You're not leading the pack, you're being pushed along because you're always at 100, 110 capacity. And that's a tough thing to do, because we all know at 100% capacity, you're kind of making more money because you're charging more or whatever. But short-term gain might hurt you long-term. So take that into consideration. If you're already at a high level of capacity, you might want to look at some of the things. One of the things I would definitely look at if you're already at 100% capacity is your customer base, and take a look at what I call the 80-20 rule. 80% of your resources and time would probably be at 20% of your customer base, and that 20% generally is at the bottom part of your revenue base. So it's a good way to free up some time is to let go of some of the customers that are at the low end of revenue stream, but at the high end of your time functions. And we can go on. I mean, to delve into that, that's an hour session on its own. So.
I think that is an invitation I'm going to make. I'm going to say, Louie, can you come back? Because I love this conversation.
Sure.
The 80-20, and, that's a whole nother episode. And I'm sure that we've piqued the interest and everybody's like, no, keep talking about that. Yes, I want to get rid of the customers that are taking up all my time, but not making me any money. So stay tuned, listener. There will be an episode in the future with Louie, and we're going to talk about this. And we're almost up on time. Louie, this has been fantastic. And I just want to say, I think if you're a listener right now going, gee, I don't know where to start, what to do, all these changes, look, there's other people going through this, and the ICB is a place where there's other bookkeepers like you that are preparing for the future and committed to being bookkeepers of the future and to being proactive about how they run their business and build their business. So that's a great place to start, is to go and hang out with other people that are ambitious, excited, passionate about what they're doing, passionate about helping business owners grow. And if those are the type of people you'd like to surround yourself with, then I would recommend that you learn more from Louie on how you can do that. Louie, what's the best way for them to learn more about ICB USA if they've not already done so?
Well, there's icbusa.org, which is our website. You can go there, particularly if you're interested in becoming certified and being certified and having a certification that's more international, because we have certifications all over the world. And also we're the largest organization around. So if you want to do that, we do have over a 20-year history. The other components, you can look at our Facebook. We have 2 Facebooks. We have a closed group and another and a Facebook. Take a look at that and join those 2. And you can also just email our member services and ask for questions, and we'll definitely help you out. If we can't help you, we'll try to make sure that we can find someone to help you. So,
beautiful.
Yeah.
That's great. And we're going to have links to go and find those groups and find out more about ICB USA. Louie, this has been great. I know we've already teed up another conversation, which we will do in the future. Thank you so much for sharing your time with all of us today.
Michael, this was a lot of fun. Just like when you're talking about your passions, it's not really hard at all. It's what you try to do is not to talk too much, right? Keep it central and focused. But I really enjoyed it. And Michael, just keep up this podcast. I think The Successful Bookkeeper is a great podcast. And I know from my travels to the UK, there was a course or a session at the ICB UK conference, and they referenced this podcast as one of their sources for bookkeepers. So you're doing a great job, and it's not just reaching North America; it's worldwide. So
thank you, Louie. Thank you. I appreciate it. It is amazing how the word gets out there, and like you say about the passions, that we try not to go overboard, but we try and be as clear as we can. And sometimes when we get passionate, it's still fun anyway. So
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, it's good. So that wraps another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. To learn more about today's guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.